Good afternoon. My name is Joanne McKenzie, and I'm the University Registrar and a proud member of the ETL project team examining recognition programs for university staff. First, we'd like to thank our executive sponsors, Dale King and Teresa Malazzo, for championing this project. Their guidance and support have been extremely valuable throughout this process. We'd also like to recognize and thank the Director of Recognition Programs, Kay Manning, for her many contributions to this project, as well as your years of service and dedication to the existing programs here at Emory. And last but not least, we'd like to thank Wanda Hayes, especially for all of your leadership and patience throughout this process. Our project scope, we have begun to examine and analyze our current recognition programs, both at the central level, but also at the individual unit levels, and also to provide recommendations for enhancements to our current programs. So it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce you to the Gold Star team. Stephen Frangus, Dennis Liu, Lisa Newborn, Matthew Pinson, and Holly Summers. And we believe that one of the ways that we can reward employees beyond the merit pool is a simple thanks. This excerpt from the book, The Power of Thanks, speaks to it very nicely. When people are thanked for a job well done, they have a sense of purpose. They love their work. They are inspired to do even better. They have a tremendous sense of loyalty to their employer, and every day they come to work looking for new ways to do more to help the organization surpass its goals. In 1998, I received the Award of Distinction, Emory's highest honor bestowed upon a university employee. It's one of the proudest days of my university career. It has helped me shape my management philosophy. Always treat employees with respect, recognize them for their contributions, and thank them for a job well done. This afternoon, our agenda will cover our project approach. First, we spent a lot of time talking to people across the institution about what they're doing with recognition programs. We've conducted 2 surveys, a university staff survey as well as a survey to HR leaders to understand what they're doing. There are many articles out there, trends that tell us what's happening with recognition programs. And finally, we wouldn't be Emory if we didn't do a little benchmarking. We've looked at a couple of institutions to see what their best practices are. Our recommendations. As an organization, we must increase awareness and enthusiasm about our recognition programs. And we must raise the priority of these programs across the enterprise. We also must expand support and continue to evaluate all of our programs for the university. And now I'll turn it over to Holly, who will give us a greater detail into our project approach.
Thank you, Joanne. Before we start talking more in detail about our approach to this project, I'll just do a quick review of the 3 primary existing programs that we took a look at. As Joanne mentioned, the first is the Award of Distinction. The Award of Distinction started at Emory in 1985, so it's a long-standing program. It's awarded annually to 10 to 15 recipients. The recipients receive a $1,000 cash award and are honored at a dinner. The second program we took a look at are Emory Service Awards. The Service Awards is a program where employees are recognized for their years of service to the institution. The recognitions begin at 5 years of service. They're awarded in 5-year increments up through 50 years. At the first increment, 5 years, employees are provided a pre-selected Emory logo gift. For each successive 5 years, they receive a gift of their choice through a catalog. Beginning at 25 years of service, the employees are invited to a luncheon held annually to reward their service. And then finally, Staff Fest. Staff Fest began in 1978, so it's one of our longest standing programs. It is a festival type event held the Friday after commencement each year and offers an opportunity for staff to sort of let down their hair, to go interact with their colleagues in a more informal atmosphere, to play some games, to try their hand at a rock wall maybe, to show their moves on the dance floors, but to really just kind of have a good time with their colleagues. So we took a look at those 3 events as part of the charge of this project. For our project approach, we initiated 2 surveys that we developed as a project team. The first was a staff survey that was sent to all staff. We do thank Human Resources for helping facilitate the issuance of that survey. We received 1,500 responses, and we were pretty impressed by the number of responses that we received, as well as the detail in each response. And that alone tells us the importance of this type of initiative. It was about 20 questions in our survey, depending on how you answered the questions. We asked questions about specific programs as well as demographic questions, so we'd have an idea of what recognition meant to an employee based on their years of service to the university. We also sent a much more targeted survey to HR leaders. We got 63 responses on that, and again, we were pretty happy with the responses. We all know that surveys are not always well received. I think we all get a lot of surveys, but we were really happy with the responses that we got. And we wanted to get information from existing HR leaders on the types of programs that they had, if they had any, in their units. We will sprinkle some of the data from those surveys throughout the presentation, so we're not just going to present the survey results as a standalone. We also undertook a review of current literature to see what the current thinking is in sort of the HR world on recognition programs. And then we spoke with our colleagues over at Emory Healthcare to learn about their EHC Recognize program. We detail what we learned on that more in the white paper, but we can answer any questions that you might have on what we learned. Just a little bit of survey data. The first question we asked was simply, are you familiar with the Award of Distinction? And you'll see the responses on the screen. 55% of respondents, and this is all respondents, said they were not familiar with the Award of Distinction, which was a little surprising to us. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. For service awards, we asked staff whether they felt that the gift, the reward they received through the service award program was meaningful to them. The good news is that 63% said yes, but that does leave 37% saying no. So that's something that we thought was interesting. And then when we asked about Staff Fest, we asked, of course, about attendance and Staff Fest and that sort of thing, but we asked staff what they liked about Staff Fest. From the narrative responses, we put together a little word cloud, and you'll see bright red in big letters what they like, and what they like is food. And so, you know, we asked them to let us know, and that's what they said. You'll also see some information later about what we might improve, and you might sense a theme when we get there. So that's some of the information that we got on our existing programs. From our HR survey, we asked about what individual units or departments are doing for their employees with respect to recognition and awards. And we got a lot of information on things that are held from a non-central level, either formally or informally. Many units describe something to the effect of an Employee of the Quarter, Employee of the Month, and Supervisor of the Year awards that they give out. Some units had spot award programs to provide that sort of instant gratification for an employee who does a good job and is rewarded on the spot. And then several units had more formal programs. We learned about Campus Services CS Select program, which has a very easy online nomination process. LITS Significant Contribution Awards. Like CS Select program, both the LITS program and Campus Services program have 5 distinct categories for nominations, so it's a very formalized program. And then the Campus Life Awards and Service, or CLASS Awards, has 8 distinct categories. So again, the nomination process is very well established, it's very formalized, and these are individual unit level programs. So there are programs that exist on campus beyond just the 3 main recognition programs that we were asked to take a look at. We also undertook a peer institution review. Kay had already started through HR a benchmarking process at early 2017, and we were able to capitalize on that work. So again, thank you for that information. So the institutions that we receive responses for are shown on the slide. What we did learn was that every single one of them had some sort of program. So this is at least a standard practice for universities that we consider our peers. The most common type of program were the length of service awards. Almost everybody had some type of length of service award. Generally, like Emory's, they're awarded at 5-year increments. Most start at 5 years. One institution didn't start their service award program until 10 years of service. Many had a formal dinner for staff at 20 or 25 years of service. Stanford actually described a service pin program where employees were given a pin that they could wear on a blouse or lapel of a jacket as a sign of pride at their service to the university. Several had presidential type award or described presidential types of award that are very similar to Emory's Award of Distinction. Some had festival-like events similar to Emory's Staff Fest, though not many described that. We only had one or two that described a festival-type event. One did indicate that the event was open to family as well as staff of the institution. What we also learned is that generally these events are centrally coordinated by 1 to 2 individuals. One institution had 3 individuals that coordinated the program, but the programs were also over for their university as well as their healthcare system. So that was the institution that had 3 people organizing it. When asked about unit level programs, I think those institutions were similar to Emory, and one cited and said in their narrative response that other than training, it's very difficult to resolve the question of unit level manager recognition from a central level, and I think that's what we felt as well. We did talk to Emory Healthcare. Emory Healthcare has what they call the EHC Recognize program. That is both a peer-to-peer thank you recognition program as well as a point system program. And again, we have more information in the white paper on that. To take us through the first of our recommendations, I'd like to introduce Dennis Liu.
Thanks, Holly. So our first set of recommendations are based really around our current and existing programs that we have today at Emory. And they can be broadly classified into 2 kind of broad themes: increasing awareness and enthusiasm for these programs, and raising the priority of these programs in the hearts and minds of our managers and leaders throughout the institution. Well, let's go back and say, well, why is this important? Why are we even here talking about reward and recognition today at all? Well, it turns out people consider it very important. We asked on our survey, and people responded. 97% of all respondents actually stated that it is important to be recognized outside of the annual review process. And even more interestingly, across the different lengths of employments, this was very consistent in terms of the bands of importance. So 70% across all lengths of employment actually consider this to be at least very important. Our first reward and recognition program we want to talk about today is Award of Distinction. And again, as Holly alluded to earlier, there's actually a broad lack of familiarity until you've been here for over 10 years, based on this survey result. This is Emory's preeminent award and recognition, and it takes 10 years for them to become familiar with it. For those that actually were familiar with the program, they found the nomination process with eligibility and criteria to be nominated for this award to be complex. And so it was difficult to be nominated, it was difficult to nominate. So our recommendations here are to communicate the award more broadly, capture more people and as early as in their careers as possible so that they can learn and aspire to this wonderful achievement. Renaming it to the President's Award of Distinction, again, kind of sealing in that this emphasizes the intended value of recognition, the intended level of recognition, so that people understand that what is the Award of Distinction? It is a university recognition for great work and great contribution. And furthermore, clarifying the criteria and eligibility requirements. And again, we've learned a little bit from our peer institution and benchmarking as to what that can look like. And more of those details are in the white paper. Service awards don't have a familiarity issue, but what we have is an opportunity to capture the missed expectations. So in 2014, Human Resources actually did a survey to evaluate the current service awards program, and 44% of those respondents actually came back and said they didn't like the gift. 35% responded that they missed expectations in the quality of the gift. While that's not the majority of the respondents, it is a large proportion and something again, an opportunity to kind of revisit the program itself. But we also identify another thing. While most people couple the award or the recognition to a tangible gift, what we found was there's also units out there, divisions, departments that actually deliver or present the award in a very meaningful way. So our recommendation is actually to recognize and encourage that type of behavior. Recognizing that so we call that Emory College, they provide an annual luncheon that recognizes these recipients in a broad group of their peers and provides lunch, food, as well as a Visa gift card, and to kind of broaden what the award and recognition is, the experience and the meaning behind it. Staff Fest was an interesting one. We actually had a very pleasant surprise. We expected fully at the start of this project that we would have to create a plan to overhaul and revamp the Staff Fest event. But from our survey data, we actually found that our hypothesis was not supported by the data. What we found instead were the people that attended the event really liked the event, right? There was a nostalgia certainly to the Staff Fest of years past. What we saw was in 2008, 2009, due to economic situation that not only Emory but across the country, Staff Fest budget was cut in half. Well, between 2008 and 2016, the attendance at Staff Fest actually dropped by more than half, right? But those that attended really do like the event. So while most departments do encourage, we did see that precipitous drop over the past few years. The recommendation here is not to overhaul and completely revamp Staff Fest, but instead really look at driving attendance, getting people out there. And this is a different word cloud than what was presented earlier. This is actually the question, responses to the question of how would you best improve or recommend improvements to Staff Fest as a program. Food makes its appearance again, lunch and food. So it validated by, people do like food. That was answered in the first word cloud. But there's still more to be done. And we think that's a great way to, effectively enhance the overall experience of Staff Fest. Now we say that with one piece of advice. People actually do like the variety and offerings of the different events and activities at Staff Fest. Again, this kind of came up and we were surprised by what we saw because we didn't consider this, but people didn't necessarily participate in the events, but they use it as a spectator, as a kind of spectating it. And what they did was while watching people dance on the floor, while watching people play volleyball, they were able to connect with other people across campus that they normally wouldn't have. And people really enjoyed that. So again, you can kind of see there's not as much diversity in this word cloud as there is in what is positive. So people really do enjoy this event. Enhancing the food options to provide lunch. It turns out, a couple hours ago, you might have received from HR already that this recommendation has apparently been fully embraced. So, so thank you. We were also asked specifically to consider an award of distinction for teams, not only individuals. Our current states today of our portfolios are really focused on individual contributions and kind of working almost in a silo of one. And that is not where we are today. We as a university at different levels, departments, divisions, we embrace working together. We want to work in cross-functional teams. We want that collaboration. And rewards and recognition programs really need to align to our strategy and execution. So that is a gap in our current recognition and rewards portfolio. Adding a team award of distinction would help round that out. One example that we call out specifically is finance division's recently implemented Bold Award. It's very well received, and we use that as a great foundation to kind of propose what could be the first iteration of the team award. This is a brand new program. And several of our recommendations are tweaks to existing programs. These require continuous evaluation and continuous support. And that's one of our next set of recommendations are really around expanding support and continuous evaluation to see if our current proposal, as strong as it is, it's not perfect, and we expect strategy to change and execution to change, and will require additional evaluation. So to talk a little bit more about expanding support and continual evaluation, I'd like to call upon my team member, Steve Frangus.
Thank you, Dennis. So this moves us to our second section of recommendations, which Dennis just mentioned. And on the screen, you see two quotes, which come from different viewpoints from the employee survey. The first from a happier employee who comments on how this individual is happy with their manager who does a good job, appears to be doing a good job with recognition, and how that makes them feel. The second one comes from a slightly different viewpoint. This individual has observed that Emory may not value or encourage its managers as much as it should, and some of the repercussions that employee feels. Those themes move us into our second set of recommendations. The first being expanded support for managers. The current state in this area is many managers aren't aware of existing recognition programs and other options available to them, as indicated by Dennis with the award of distinction primarily. The survey data suggests a lack of consistent and active recognition programs that can contribute to negative morale. So the earlier recommendations that Dennis mentioned were aimed at that second bullet, but the team got together and we realized we needed to take it a step further. So we are making a fairly straightforward recommendation to implement required manager training in recognition techniques and principles. The manager training would be incorporated into existing manager training and would include overarching Emory themes as well as tools to help managers tailor certain awards to their areas and giving them that independence while remaining in the overarching Emory umbrella for consistency. The manager training would teach specific techniques. So it's very important in general for the reward to match the behavior. So managers need to be able to recognize that. So the training would show them examples of how to do this. The presentation of the reward should tie in connections among company values and goals. Also, the training would show managers examples of which type of behavior merits which type of reward. So when you have behavior that results in substantial improvement over time, that merits more of an award of distinction or a team award, perhaps. When you have a more one-time type of behavior, which results in a short-term improvement, but still shows effort on the part of the employee, you might choose a spot award or something like that. The manager training would teach recognition habits, follow up in person with praise whenever possible, sending out a follow-up email or newsletter, broadcasting the results will continue to have motivation and remind the team of the benefits of the behavior. You would include managers especially talented at recognition as mentors. So managers could either reach out and a mentor could come in a live forum, or there would be a list that managers could refer to and discuss ideas, what's worked, what hasn't worked, why did you choose this versus not, etc. So that transitions us into our second recommendation, which will focus on this need for continual evaluation and observation. And the team feels that this is perhaps our most important recommendation. The current state in this area is that recognition trends and methods in the workplace are constantly evolving. So they evolve due to employees' age, due to the nature of work, due to economic trends, institutional trends, technology. All those things affect trends, and that's constantly evolving. Staff feedback indicated a consistent interest in several types of recognition. So in the survey, we actually chose 5 specific types, and we asked for feedback on those types. So we chose spot awards, peer-to-peer awards, customer service, innovation, and team. The highest amount of enthusiasm came from spot awards. So we know that information now. Now, will that evolve in the future? Probably. So we have that information. We also have information that Holly mentioned on existing programs in divisions that they have put together themselves. So to handle these evolving trends and to perhaps leverage these programs in other institutions, in other divisions, we are making a recommendation of a commission on staff recognition. This commission would include members of management and partner with HR. Staff members and even perhaps faculty could be on the commission. And it would cause a win-win type situation because the staff would gain invaluable experience. They would be able to offer their input into this process. And HR would gain a valuable tool to help them maximize their efforts for their part. The commission would partner with HR to develop and monitor the manager training program and continually evaluate staff recognition programs, oversee the selection of the Presidential Award of Distinction and Team Award of Distinction, either through a subcommittee, perhaps, or they could do it themselves, however it evolves. They would monitor feedback on spot and peer-to-peer awards. As I just mentioned, we know now that spot awards have an immense or tremendous interest in them, and peer-to-peer was actually second. So the commission could also serve better communication throughout campus. They could partner with existing employee councils to boost that part of communication with campus and enhance the awareness. And essentially, the members of this commission would become ambassadors for the university in this area. With that, we transition to our summary and conclusion. And I will turn it over to Matthew Pinson for that part of our presentation.
So President Claire Stirk has a bold vision for Emory University going forward, an ambitious and bold vision for the university. And in her inauguration address just in February, she articulated that in order to achieve the sort of vision she has for the university, we're going to have to attract and retain the very best faculty and staff in the world. And we believe that implementing the recommendations in our white paper and through this project, that we will help the university achieve these goals. We believe that a strong and meaningful reward and recognition program will communicate to staff that excellent work is valued and appreciated. It'll improve employee engagement and morale, and it will instill confidence in leadership toward the achievement of Emory's bold vision for the future. One thing we also discovered through the ETL program and our access to the university's labor report, thanks to a presentation given by Wanda during the program, is that Emory University actually loses a great deal of money annually due to staff turnover. We invest, as you know, a significant amount of resource in staff and faculty here at Emory, as we well should. And we know that our annual turnover rate is just over 8%, and that the average voluntary turnover is just over 900 individuals. If you add some additional sort of statistics or math to this, you'll see that this actually costs the university quite a lot of money year over year. In a best case conservative scenario, if you're just talking about loss of salary, it's approaching $64 million. If you think about it in terms of, startup costs, training, and other things that are invested in employees from the beginning, we think it might be much higher, maybe just north of $96 million annually. So we don't have any survey data to suggest this, but we would like to think that if a meaningful and constantly evolving program of reward and recognition, if employees felt added value of their time here at Emory, that we could in fact reduce our annual voluntary turnover rate such that the university might realize some significant annual cost savings. If, for example, we only reduce this by 5% annually, you can see there on the screen what this might translate into dollars saved, dollars that could be potentially redeployed, again, toward the achievement of the university's bold vision for the future. Thank you all very much for your attention.
Hi, everybody. We now invite your questions on our project.